You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and I've done a few videos like this before, but I thought it was time to do an updated version to just kind of show you my setup. So we're going to take a look around at my setup that I use to game and to make videos, so we'll just jump right into that. As you can see, one new addition that I actually just added in today is I now use 2 monitors, which means I can view the screen chat while playing PC games without having to use my phone like I did. So there's my 2 monitors. There's my keyboard, right, which is a cheap-ass keyboard I got for $5 at a thrift store. There's my Xbox 360 Vision camera, which I use as a webcam. It's shit quality, because of course it is. There's my Blue Snowball mic that I use to record all of my audio. This is my Razer headset that I use to hear the game audio without having an echo. If I'm using a PC game, then I'll have it plugged into the computer so I can hear the game and you guys don't hear an echo. If I'm playing an Xbox One game, or a game that's compatible with Xbox One, I'll plug it into my Xbox One controller, so it picks up that audio without having to echo. And if I'm playing a different console that doesn't have a spot for this to plug in, I just turn the TV down as low as I can where I can still kind of hear it, but you guys can't, or at least not that well. Apologies for the stacks of shit back here. As I said, I am disorganized, and a lot of my stuff is stacked here on my desk. I have shelves and stuff, but if I'm using something for convenience, sometimes I like to have it right here. At some point I'll work on organizing this, but today is not that day. But here we have my Xbox One itself. This is always hooked up. I always keep this console hooked up at all times. I can have 2 consoles hooked up in here realistically, and this one is one of the ones that is always hooked up. Now this is my modded original Xbox. It's how I do most of my emulators as well. This has a bunch of my games backed up on the hard drive, so I don't actually have to use the physical disc every time. It uses this Chinese knockoff adapter to plug into HDMI, and then all of that plugs into this HDMI splitter, which I have because the PS3 requires it, and also my Elgato capture card has some issues. It tends to work better if stuff goes through a splitter rather than going straight through the capture card. Here's my Elgato HD60 capture card. I've had this for a few years now, and it's the only capture card I've ever used, but it still gets the job done even if it does have some problems. Here's the actual computer, which my brother built years ago, and then he upgraded and sold me this one. We've actually recently upgraded the RAM in this, and we're going to upgrade the graphics card later. We actually have the other graphics card, we just haven't hooked it up yet. But yeah, in this second spot is where I will rotate things out. I'll either put my PS2, my Retron, or my PS4, or my PS3, or my 360. Speaking of my Retron, here it is. This is how I play all of my Game Boy Advance games for the most part, as well as any ROM hack cartridges I get. Here's my Xbox 360, which is also modded. I use this whenever I need to play a 360 game that isn't backwards compatible. Here's my PS3, which again is also modded. I have a lot of modded consoles, if you couldn't tell. I actually have 3 modded original Xboxes, and that's not even counting the other ones that are in the house that aren't mine. I use this primarily for PS1 and PS2 games, especially if they're imported, because this has no region locking and plays any PS1, PS2, or PS3 game. I still like to get the discs physically, so that's a nice thing to do, is use this to play those games. But I do install them to the hard drive, so I don't actually have to use the disc. I just like to have the disc to install them onto this. This is my PS4. Like I said, the second console spot always switches on my desk for whatever I need, but yeah, this is the PS4. Here's my PS2. I've got other consoles, but I think you get the idea. I just rotate out the console as needed. Now, as I said, I typically will use my PS3 if I want to play an imported PS1 or PS2 game. However, for whatever reason, there are sometimes those PS1 and PS2 games that don't work on my PS3. Like, they'll load up just fine, but the game won't actually launch. For instance, the McDonald's Happy Disk. And when that happens, I use this. This is the Swap Magic 3. This is a disc that allows you to temporarily change the region on your PS2. So I will use this if I want to play the Happy Disk, mostly. It's the main thing I've had to use it for, but I had this before I had the modded PS. Now we're taking a look at the actual stuff on the computer itself. This is OBS. This is what I typically use to record any gameplay or to record the screen as needed. And then I'll do any calls on Discord to do collaborations or get people into the videos. Now this is Microsoft Movie Maker. This is how I do all of my editing for the most part. I know it's not ideal, but as you guys can see, I like to do a lot of things ass backwards. It's just the way that I am. I've still used this ever since Gen 3 of the channel, so starting in 2017, I've used this. It's pretty convenient for me to use. I know it's not the best software, but it gets the job done. This is Audacity. This is what I use to record my audio. It's a free program. It works pretty easy. You just go in, you hit record, and that's how you do it. Pretty simple. You can also do some very rudimentary audio editing here, which I've done a couple of times, but I usually just do that in Movie Maker. So typically when I need to record live action stuff for collection updates or whatever, I use this. This is my Samsung Galaxy S9 phone. I actually had an S10 and it broke, so then I went back to this S9 because I'm a cheap and lazy bastard and haven't got it replaced. Which is why you may notice there is some, like, smudges and shit on the lens, because the lens is, like, fucked up on this one, which is one of the couple of reasons that I upgraded from it initially. But again, this one works, the other one doesn't, and I'm cheap as fuck. What can I say? I'm a cheap bastard. It's so, I stick with what I have until it is unusable. That's just how I've always been. But yeah, this is my Samsung Galaxy S9. The front camera actually looks okay, so when I record my face on it, it looks fine. It looks a hell of a lot better than this Xbox 360 Vision camera. But that is typically how I record the live action stuff, is with this phone. I've used basically whatever phone I have at the time is how I do it. And then if I need visuals otherwise, I will often just use gameplay from my existing streams. Or if it's like video footage, I'll get it through OBS. If it's just pictures, I'll use Google Images to find good screenshots. Or failing that, I'll take screenshots myself. Also, if I want video footage of something quick and I don't care about the quality, sometimes I'll use Hypercam just to get it quick so I don't have to upload and re-download it. Because Movie Maker will not just take the raw files from OBS, but it will from Hypercam. So for OBS, I have to upload something, re-download it. Because when I re-download it, it downloads it as an MP4, which Movie Maker will take. If I just need some quick visuals I'm throwing up, I'll either use AI art that I generate using Crayon, or I'll use AI art that Corbin's generated using Crayon, or I'll use some art that Corbin's actually drawn, because Corbin has drawn quite a lot of good art, either for Sargent Friends or just as art itself. And there you have it. As I said, I do a lot of things kind of ass backwards, as you probably noticed. I emulate on a fucking modded console rather than just emulating on the computer. Obviously, my capture card is hella beat up and there's a lot of problems with it. I use Movie Maker. My computer is pretty out of date. It uses Windows 7. I use my piece of shit phone. There's a lot of things that I do ass backwards. Like I said, I play ROM hacks on cartridges that I buy and put in my Retrod, so it's kind of crazy. When I need an audio file that is like a clip of a song or something, I'll record it in OBS as a video file, upload it to YouTube, and then download it, because Movie Maker won't just take the raw files, but if I upload it and re-download it, then it'll work because it converts it to MP4. Again, it's hella ass backwards, and I decided to make this because I was watching people comment on James Rolfe's bizarre behind-the-scenes thing. It's like, yeah, I know I do some ass backwards stuff, so it'd be fun to talk about my setup again. Plus, I haven't done one of these in a minute, so I just thought I'd talk about it. Obviously, stubborn. I'm cheap. All of the stuff I use are free apps. I don't pay for a single app I use. They're all just free stuff. I've been doing it for so long, I'm stubborn, I'm stuck in it, it works. It's all about functionality rather than making it all nice for me. But I definitely make it harder on myself than I need to with some of these weird choices that I make. But I just thought it'd be fun to talk about, so I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. Toodles.
Subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.